But we have a listener question from Timothy. Thank you very much for the question. And it's basically, would we want to see NBA Live adopt a story-driven career mode? We touched a little bit on this, I guess, in the intro, but what is our definitive answer on that, Ben?
I think, sort of reiterating what I was saying before, in terms of, if it's well done and it's in depth, like, and taking the time, say like what the Madden one has, where that one was 4 years of planning and developing, and that, that sounds like and the fact that there's a lot of branching in terms of even stuff that happens off field and that sort of thing. I think yes, and I think as long as it's not so linear, I'm all for it. Whether it's more based off in a particular character like Alex Hunter or I'm sorry, I forget the one that Madden is using, the name of the two characters, or the primary and the secondary character. I forget what their names are, but
Orange juice, haha.
But there's, as long as there's diversity in it and not so out of place, like for example the Spike Lee story, and given that if you're not in that sort of
if you don't sort of meet the characteristics, the character that's been designed, it's been written with a certain character in mind, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think yes. I mean, there is a lot of areas where they could really flesh out a story in terms of things and that. But when it comes to how narrow it can get, if you pigeonhole it to certain aspects and that, then you sort of eliminate some of the audience in terms of that whole immersion, because you're sort of breaking it in terms of it in that sort of sense. So I think if they can get that right, and allow us to still that freedom, and if it's something cross between what they're doing with the one, where how your play and all that dictates how the story evolves, then yes, I'm all for it, because it's good for content creators who do like the sort of let's play sort of stuff and stream it. It can be good for even our forums in terms of, again, with Dynasty stuff.
The story threads, yeah.
Yeah. And there's extra elements that I'd like obviously sort of thrown in, but I think that'd be more in terms of like your Dynasty sort of stuff. But yeah, I think there's some cool stuff that they can do with it. So yes, even if they, like I said earlier, if they go like the whole sort of my GM, my league route, where there's sort of two variations, in one where you can craft the story and you set up the thing, or one where there might be like where it's still like
gameplay driven, is more of a sandbox experience, like career version of my league kind of thing. Yeah.
So yeah, I think those methods work, and because you can be catering to both types of audiences in that sense, the ones that do prefer it, ones who more sort of want the that's whole sort of theatrics and all that stuff,
all the cutscenes and everything like
that.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I was going to say, and I'm glad you brought it up again, that it goes back to what you just said about having the My League and the My GM approach to the franchise mode. I would love 2K to have that as well, to have with My Career, whether you had My Career and My Story, for example, with My Career being the more gameplay driven, more of the RPG game where the story is driven by and even if you do have cutscenes, that it comes from what you're doing, that it's influencing the story that way, and then you've got the story that you play through that's is as written. As I said, I did like the 2K17 story a lot more than any other story that they've done so far. I guess the only thing that I didn't like about it was, funnily enough, that the fact that your father had passed away. It's, and not because I think it's inappropriate or anything for the story, but I guess it's again pigeonholing the backstory of your character a little bit. What I'd like to see, obviously, I'd like to see the two different modes like that. And this goes for 2K as well. I'd like to see multiple stories as far as what you start as, whether you start as a D-League prospect, someone who needs to work their way up, from the D-League, someone who is a 10-day contract or whatever, someone who is a maybe someone who missed their rookie season and is now trying to make a comeback. I wrote a Friday 5 article about this a little while back as well, the different story ideas that could possibly be, whether you're a role player, whether you're a star player. And if
you're a national player.
Yeah, and if you start out as a star player, your ratings are higher, but it takes longer to level up from there. If you're a prospect that's promising but not as good, you have lower ratings, but it's easier to level up, at least to begin with. So there's different ways that you could do that. I'd like to see that. The branching storylines, obviously, I think that's something that, and again, I'm talking about stuff that I'd like to see in 2K as well. But ultimately, if Live was to do that, to bring the story-driven approach, I would definitely want to see them do that as well. And like you said, maybe work on it for 2 or 3 years, like Madden did.
Yeah.
But again, I do like that Live is doing something different, that they are avoiding that story-driven approach. Maybe it's out of necessity as far as building up the game. And if Live if Live's gameplay had been at the levels of 2K's for the last 2 or 3 years, maybe we'd be seeing the story-driven approach in Live as well. So who's to say? Obviously they have different priorities, but I do like that Live has taken that different direction. So I wouldn't want it instead of what Live is doing, but if they could do it well and do it in a way that was an addition to the way that they're doing the one, I suppose I wouldn't object.
Yeah, I agree. I think versatility and options is a winner in that sort of thing. You can I suppose the two sides of the whole argument. You can have a mode for them in that sort of sense. So yeah, I'm definitely all for it.
If you're catering to both audiences in some way, no one has to get left out. Is what it comes down to at the end of the day. Again, we've seen the benefit of them doing that with My GM and My League. My GM when it first came through, and they have changed some of the approach that it's not as much behind a paywall and everything now, which is great, obviously for My GM. But I still like the versatility of My League, so it's great to have the two options in there, and that's something they recognise with the franchise modes. And I love it if 2K did it with their career modes, and certainly if Live goes that way, there's a lot of merit in having the two different experiences there. So. I guess my answer at the end of the day is I don't really want it as such. I wouldn't prefer it to what the one is doing, but if done properly, I could definitely get on board with it, because I have seen how 2K have improved it, and it could be done in a way that caters to both crowds. So if it can do that, I'm certainly not opposed to it.